It was high drama on the Solent for Event 8 of the 2026 season of SailGP as World Cup fever grabbed a hold of one team in particular.
Great British Sailing returned in force on the waters of Portsmouth.
Oh, it's tight there. They get very, very loose.
A packed grandstand witnessed every moment. The Black Foils and Los Gallos seized control of Group A,
Absolute scenes.
while the USA and Artemis set the pace in Group B.
It's just simple stuff, but they're doing it really well.
Emirates GBR took the win when they needed it most.
Oh, they needed that, Todd.
Now the pressure rises and the battle begins again. Who will rise? Who will rule the waves? This is SailGP.
Welcome to SailGP's recap of event number 8. This was the Emirates Great Britain Sail Grand Prix Portsmouth. I'm Todd Harris alongside former Emirates GBR athlete Hannah Diamond and Olympian Stevie Morrison. Hannah, what can you say about the Spanish? They make it 2 for 2.
Yeah, I think they've really started to pick up some momentum. After being in a few finals and not managing to take the win, they've now gone back-to-back. So huge amount of momentum and a really important part of this mid-season.
Stevie, you've said it before and you'll say it again. The Spanish are just silky smooth. They just don't make mistakes.
No, they don't, and I think what will frighten a lot of the teams, as we see here, Hannah, some great starts from the Swiss and the Swedish, but the Spanish actually sail back through the fleet, which is pretty rare.
Yeah, I think it's really powerful to be able to sail back through the fleet. Artemis and Explorer Swiss absolutely rocked that start, but it was all about the decision making. We've seen this so many times from Las Gallas. They are so good at making that critical decision to split away when it really matters. They looked quite slow coming into this left turn, but we heard them on the comms say they were sailing into more pressure, which put them back into contention. And from there, their boat speed was really impressive.
I think that was the point where we went down to Lisa Darmanin, and Stevie, correct me if I'm wrong, and she called the side and the Spanish followed. So I don't know if they have Lisa Darmanin on comms, but they made the good call.
Yeah, well, there you go. Lisa had the great view, and she got it absolutely right. And Diego did. And sometimes when you're ahead, it's hard to make, sometimes you keep things simple, as the Artemis team did, and obviously Nathan will rue it in hindsight, it was the incorrect decision. Right. But sometimes if you're the boat behind, it's a little easier to roll the dice, rather than if you do the extra manoeuvre as the leader, and it's not quite right, you look a bit dumb for doing something you knew was going to cost you distance. So tricky for Artemis, but Lisa saw it, Diego saw it, so Nathan will be wondering, oh, did I really miss that?
So with Sassnitz coming up, Stevie, do you see a point where Spain is on a 3 for 3 roll?
Yeah, I don't see why not. I mean, if you look at them all season, that to me, they've been absolute quality. I mean, the Bonds Flying Roos have been phenomenal, and what I'm finding weird with the Bonds Flying Roos, or interesting, is I've always kind of felt their light wind sailing's their weakness and their windy stuff's their strength, whereas actually almost this year it seems to have flipped a little bit, and Ian Jensen's got them fast in the light, but less so. But yeah, Los Gallos are just on a roll, and they look really good.
After the action on the Solent, Alex Holborn caught up with the winners of this event in Portsmouth.
Okay, Diego, back-to-back wins, Halifax and now Portsmouth. What's the secret to success over the last couple of events?
Well, yeah, I just think we are working well as a team lately, and yeah, we are sailing the boat quite well, and well, it's super tight, obviously back-to-back win, but yeah, the fleet is super strong, and yeah, we are managing to sail with very few mistakes, and I think it's making us going through the fleet quite well.
Obviously, we've had 2 split fleet finals of 4 boats, and you've won both. Are you really enjoying that? What's the vibe on board?
Well, I don't know. I mean, this one was a bit more on the edge. We didn't have a very good start, and yeah, as I said, we felt quite comfortable in these conditions this weekend. But yeah, I mean, nothing is for granted here in this league, so we need to keep working the same way if we want to give ourselves a chance again.
And with so much momentum on board, so much positivity, what's your approach going into Sassnitz for the next event?
Just keep doing the same things we are doing, which is not easy when things are going well. So this is it.
Congratulations, well done.
Thank you very much.
And before we talk more about the group racing in Sassnitz, Hannah, a tip of the cap to your neck of the woods. That was a brilliant venue, and the conditions were awesome, the people were great, the sailing was spectacular.
Yeah, it's been an incredible weekend of racing. I think the weather was really on our side, which massively helped, but the teams really put on a show. I think there was a different winner in every single one of the fleet races, which I don't think has ever happened before in SailGP history. So incredible racing, and just really sets up nicely for the back end of the season.
And are you now a big fan of group racing, Stevie Morrison? Are you saying keep it here, don't change a thing?
I mean, this was perfect conditions, and it really showed it all off. I mean, what we've seen is it's different skill set. You've still got to be good at starting, but there's a little bit more space for your boat speed, for a few more tactical options. That's great. I mean, it's also quite nice seeing that sort of almost street fighting type stuff where you've got to dig away. So personally, I'd probably like a little bit of both, but in the evolution of SailGP, you know, we're growing all the time. You can't have 14, 15 of these boats on the same course. So we've got to kind of go through this growing out stage. I personally think 10 on each course would be a real sweet spot, but you know, we're probably a few seasons away from that.
20 total, that would be amazing. All right, so we had some great racing all weekend long on the Solent. We pulled up some of our best moments, you guys, of what took place at the Emirates Great Britain Sail Grand Prix in Portsmouth. And let's start with Germany, Stevie, and day one. I think you and I, we were sitting next to each other when this happened, and I saw your reaction, and that's what brought me like, what's going on?
Yeah, I mean, it's just they rushed a manoeuvre. The fort was in there. The boundary came quick. There'd been a slight wind shift. And yeah, I mean, it was all action, wasn't it? Basically, they rushed a manoeuvre slightly. Kevin Pepinay, the wing trimmer on board the boat, we can see he's sort of fallen over on his way across the boat, and he wasn't able to ease the wing sheet out. He also wasn't able to lift the board. If you see top light's just gone behind a droplet, typical there, but he wasn't able to get to the board either to lift the board. It's just coming up now on the left-hand side there. So the whole boat lifted up, tipped over, and yeah, I mean, that was I imagine there was a few nervous moments on board that boat right then, because that was full on, and they did a great job to save it. You know, I think the momentum of the boat turning up into the wind was always going to depower it a bit, but it was pretty cat-like reactions, and yeah, it shows you how much a little mistake can hurt.
Hen, you've been on these boats before. How do you keep your heart rate down when something like that? Because they were pretty calm for that whole thing. Stevie and I were bouncing around the room, but they were just like, oh, no big deal.
I'm sure they weren't underneath it all. I think, but one of the big things in these racing is these things are going to happen, and how you manage the rising stress levels, your heart rate is going to be high. We've seen a number of close calls this weekend in terms of boat-on-boat action, some near misses and things like that. But how you move on from that is what happened, is where you see the top teams really rise to the top.
Another big event was a penalty that was on the Blackfoils of New Zealand, and this kind of turned the tide on things, Stevie and Hannah, because it looked like the Blackfoils were a shoo-in to be in the event final.
Yeah, I mean, they were sort of in control of things here, Hannah, weren't they? But they wanted to really push as wide as they could to boundary. As soon as they enter that 80-metre zone where they are right now, Rockwool went to turn. Blackfoils were in the way. They weren't allowed to be, and it was a bit uncharacteristic for me.
Yeah, I think generally in those kind of scenarios, they're really silky smooth.
Right.
I don't know if it's maybe a little bit of rust coming off the back of not so much sailing over the last few months, or whether they were just really trying to push some of that course geometry because it was going to be a right turn at Mark 1, but quite an uncharacteristic mistake from the Blackfoils there, which was really costly.
It was super costly, wasn't it? It actually ended up dropping back to fifth. And I think, again, that's I suppose, you know, we say about the group racing. What's been fantastic about it in the breeze we had here, and of course, you know, if we have wind and sun and conditions, it's always going to be pretty good stuff. But we really saw some good tactical racing, some sort of key decisions. And yeah, to see Pete get that one a little wrong was a surprise.
All right, I'm not big on moral victories, but I will say this. With Spain winning the entire event, Artemis was stellar. I mean, they are a rookie team, but as Stevie pointed out, it's like calling the Rolling Stones a rookie band. They got a lot of veterans out there. But for me, the team that impressed me the most all weekend was Canada. And there was a maneuver that Giles Scott and his crew made that really punched their ticket, that got them into the event final. And here we go.
Yeah, right of way with New Zealand here, and they just had a good patch of breeze across here, hadn't they? And that was a pretty critical manoeuvre to stick that, but they'd sort of positioned themselves well, found a bit of boat speed, and then we just executed.
Yeah, and I think the execution is the key there. I think in the past we've seen them be up there for a lot of the racing, and then in those key manoeuvres where the pressure is on and they have to execute, you see them crashing off the foils and things like that. So to be able to pull off that manoeuvre under pressure and for that to elevate them to the final was really amazing to see.
Yeah, and I think for me in that, we seem to be talking a lot about group racing, but I think probably we should be. It's highlighting some different teams. So I think Canada like a bit of space and a little bit of time. You know, Giles is a slower boat sailor by instinct. Double gold medalist, you know, the best on the planet at it for a period of time. But when things are happening really quick, I'm not convinced they're brilliant. When he's got time to play out that sort of, you know, chess-like games, he's a genius at it. And I think we're seeing that with Explorer Swiss as well. Give them a bit of space, let them sort of let the boat speed build, play the game. So I think what is interesting with the group racing is we're seeing different teams, it's playing to their skill set.
Yeah. So it's chess, not speed checkers.
Yes, a little bit, yeah. And it's, you know, it's less Mario Kart.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. You heard him on that maneuver, and you heard on comms Giles Scott saying the ability to go to him any issues. he checked with him, kind of any issues here, and he's like, no, you're good. Yeah. And they just slotted in front of New Zealand, and it was game over. A team that really struggled, and Hannah, we're going to let you have first crack at this. This is your former team, Emirates GBR. They come in tied for second place in the overall. This team did not seem to like this setup. They just did not seem to be in form.
No, and obviously a really disappointing weekend for Emirates GBR. I think in some ways it just shows how much the level of the fleet is constantly rising. I think it's so easy just to get a little bit out of sync with the conditions. We've seen that with the team this year. They're either in their winning ways or they're right at the back of the fleet. There doesn't seem to be that kind of in the middle mode for them. Sometimes slightly on the back foot. I think, like you say, with the Swiss and the Canadians in the past, they've been kind of hit by decisions being made for them, and I really saw that with Emirates GBR this weekend. I also think you mentioned it, Stevie, they didn't look like they were particularly fast, so internally I'm sure they'll be having lots of debriefs to make sure that they've ironed out any of those issues before the next event.
Stevie, they got that win to wrap up day number 1, and the fans go home happy. It looks like they're on a charge, and then the next day they just came out a little bit flat.
Yeah, I mean, this was symptomatic, wasn't it? They were right in there, brilliant start. They'd really sort of improved their starting, but it's all got a bit quick, close behind the Swiss, and then they fell off the foils in the manoeuvre. Last year, every time they tacked, every time they jibed, they gained a couple of metres. This year, every time they do it, they lose a bit. And yeah, in sailing, anyone that's new to sailing, but anyone that's done sailing themselves, if you're a little bit faster than the boats around you, it's real easy to look good. Boat speed makes you a tactical genius, is what people would say. And they're a click off with this setting. But I think the bigger issue they've got, for my money, is there's niggle in the team. You could hear the frustration. There was some, industrial language, we would say. There's a lot of frustration in there, but you could kind of hear it after quite a lot of the manoeuvres. So it's not like one individual incident. It's like there's constantly a bit of angst and tension in there. And I don't know, you win last season, the expectations are through the roof. They started this season phenomenally as well. Let's not forget they won the first event. But this is the point now where all season it's been like, I've probably been guilty, it maybe you, I don't know, but of saying, yeah, they're not sailing great, but they're still in the top 3. Yeah. You just got to be in the top 3. They're not in the top 3 anymore, right? And they've got 0 points from a possible 20 in the last 2 events. That's a problem. So this is crisis time for them, I think.
We'll see how they rebound with Sassnitz on the horizon. Let's take a look at the standings as we make the turn. 8 events complete now. And take a look at this. It is Los Gallos that gets the win. Artemis Fish in second, North Star, and then Explorer Swiss. Those are your 4 boats in the final. Look at the teams that are outside that did not get in that event final. We've got the Black Foils, US SailGP team, the Bonds Flying Rouge, DS Team France, who we thought would do well in these high winds, Rockwell, Germany, Deutsche Bank, Emirates GBR, Red Bull Italy, Mubadala Brazil, all missing out. So that was frustration. And then you add that 10 points to Diego Botín and Los Gallos, now 2 event victories in a row, and they now close the gap on the Australians. So it is now a 12-point lead for the Bonds Flying Rouge over Los Gallos, and Artemis now, Hannah, has moved into 3rd. And look at this, US SailGP and Emirates GBR are out of the top 3.
Yeah, I think this has been a really critical weekend for the momentum of the season. We've seen quite a lot of moves up and down the leaderboard, and I think for the teams now we are getting back towards the back end of the season, so those points are going to be really scrutinised. And like you say, to have 0 points out of 20 possible points for the last 2 events for Emirates GBR, they're kind of moving the wrong way down the leaderboard. But for Artemis to move up into that 3rd place spot, I think it's coming at just the right time. All the events obviously count for the same number of points, but you do want to make sure you're in the top 3 at the end of the season, not just the beginning.
What do you think, Stevie? You talk about crisis time for Emirates GBR. There's a lot of teams that are in that middle, I'd say 4, 5, 6, 7 position, still with a chance to make the grand final, the top 3 at the end of the year, but they've got to start going on a roll.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I suppose the classic team of that would be the US SailGP team. They're right in there. They keep sort of just missing finals. We bumped into Taylor and he said that, to us. He's like, I've really gutted that we just missed out on another final. And actually, they're not having any shockers. They're not having any zeros. They're constantly scoring points, so they're still in the mix. But yeah, for teams like them, for Emirates GBR, if the French want to get themselves up and running again, they've got to start winning. And, North Star have found some form, middle of the season. Can they crack on? But yeah, it's starting to get too late for teams. And when you look at the quality in there, Slingsby, Botín, Outeridge, I mean, they're not teams that are going to often miss out on a lot of points at events, and it starts to suddenly get to the point of how do we catch them?
All right, the big question now is what do they do over the course of the next 3 weeks plus? Because just around the corner is one of the fastest venues we go to. It is Sassnitz in northern Germany. It will be the Rockwell Germany Sail Grand Prix Sassnitz. That's coming up in literally less than a month's time. So Hannah, you know you've got an extremely fast race coming up. You struggled possibly in Portsmouth. What's the secret sauce? How do you get back on track?
Well, I think Sassnitz is quite a fun venue.
Yeah.
One, last year we had absolutely stunning conditions, and hopefully it'll be the same again this year. But not a lot of sailors have done a lot of sailing there. It was where we saw the top speed broken by Rockwell Denmark back last year. So I think it's a pretty open course, and I think it's a real opportunity for those teams who perhaps haven't been performing so well to really make their mark on the scoreboard.
Stevie, what will that be like, though, if we have the same kind of conditions to Hannah's point? I mean, we went over 100 kilometers an hour, and we're in group racing. So there's plenty of room now and plenty of wind.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see, if we get those conditions, again, we can't control the weather, but if we get those, I don't see why not. I mean, the Baltic's got a slightly different salinity, so it's got a bit less salt in it than the normal ocean. It's not fresh water, but that does sort of enable the boats to go a little bit quicker. There's that little bit less friction on the foils in the water. So different for them to think about, but to your point that you said, what can they do? Well, that's what's so hard with sail. You can't do a lot. Yeah. You can review, you can talk, but you can have meetings and review until you're blue in the face. You've got to start making things happen.
So a lot of teams will be going through a full debrief, trying to figure out what's going wrong and how to get their season back on track. Other teams will be feeling pretty good about themselves. And one team in particular, they'll be celebrating all the way to Sassnitz. That team is Los Cayos and Spain. They win again, back-to-back event victories as they take the top prize at the Emirates Great Britain Sail Grand Prix Portsmouth. What a great showing. Congratulations to all the teams. So on behalf of Stevie Morrison, Hannah Diamond, I'm Todd Harris. We will see you in Sassnitz, Germany next month.
The fastest racing on water returns to the world's fastest race course for the Rockwell Germany Sail Grand Prix in Sassnitz. Witness 13 national teams push their flying F-50 catamarans to the absolute limit. Fresh off last season's record-breaking high-speed drama. Easily accessible from Berlin and Hamburg, secure your prime waterside view of Germany by Deutsche Bank as they race for victory on home waters.